I'd like to throw it open to the floor and invite questions.
Just want to start with the incident. We were in Ahmedabad. The IAS officers had taken a 1-month sabbatical training at IIM, and Narendra Modi hosted a dinner. My wife, who's also a batchmate, suggested that we boycott that. There were 2 Muslims who said that seems an okay idea. The 2 wanted to stay back to have booze, didn't want to come, and whether had been Nitish Kumar or anybody else, they wouldn't have joined. There were about 5-6 of us who felt at that time strong enough. So it's just not this question of a student community which thinks that way. I can assure you, of those 80 odd who wanted to join, 30 in a communal situation would have been firm. It's not that they were bad human beings,
yes,
or they didn't believe in in law. But that's the way they felt about Narendra Modi. Now, if that is the reality of the, not just the middle class, this is the intellectual so-called elite, are groups like this addressing this or recognizing this reality? That's my question.
You know, I'll give you a response with another of the great resistors of the Gujarat riots told me, Sri Kumar. I wonder if you met him. He's actually a Sanskrit scholar and can be a terrible one at times. But he told me one thing. I asked him once, I was doing interviews with him.
Can you tell us a little bit more? Who is Sri Kumar?
Sri Kumar was the head of the Gujarat intelligence. And one day he walked into my room and said, "Hi, I'm Sri Kumar. Will you work with me?" I mean, that's the only time I came close to activism. But he said, so while we were talking about it, and he said, since you worked on human rights and you chronicle it, why don't you just work with me? Which I did right through the Nanavati. But he said something fascinating, Sanjay. I asked him, why did you fight Narendra Modi? And he said something very interesting. He said, Narendra Modi is against the constitution. 2, Narendra Modi is against my sense of Hinduism. I mean, let's not forget that a lot of Hindus feel that Narendra Modi is not just a threat to the secular imagination, but the Hindu imagination which can anchor the secularism. And I think Sri Kumar put it very brilliantly. But he said, I can speak the language. Are you sure your English middle class can speak that? Which comes to the point you're raising. I think there is a problem. But I think what I really see is this effort has brought a lot of people as individuals and small groups who have gone into that thing and worked. And I'll give another Tista, impossible character. And I worked with her for years.
You're on tape.
No, you can. I've already told her that. No, but the way she works with the survivor, she's almost learned a new idiom and a new language. I think that learning process is to me, and for someone that arrogant to master the language of the patience of listening, I think it's very, very moving. And like you're right, some of us are very cocksure. But I think the way she articulated, I think I heard some of your stories. I think they're almost in a folklore idiom. They're not within the standard language of administration. I think these new idioms which are coming, which are emerging, in the sense that activism is producing a new kind of storytelling, new kinds of narratives, new kinds of engagement, is a source of hope. But as I told you, within my own university, it's a losing battle.
But I think the space for listening is extremely important, because otherwise one comes with an agenda and with a certain, that okay, this is what we stand for, this is what we think it is, and this is how it should be. This whole thing of listening and speaking their language, and not creating a them and us within the what we call the so-called good people is also, I think, extremely important.
Which would mean also non-judgmental.
Absolutely.
You can only really listen if you're willing to at least for the moment suspend judgment.
And empathize with the why somebody feels this way.
Yeah, and the anxiety that they may be experiencing.
I just wanted to add a little bit to this. I've been working, most of my life on the issue of secular democracy. I think the idea of India to me is the most precious idea. And in these last 10 years more actively, but I'm really struck by my own biradari, which is the secular biradari, the kind of intolerance and anger and hate that is generated in our everyday discourse. It really amazes me because, I mean, to my mind, you were saying, what is this Indian idea of secularism? To me, actually, it's a very interesting idea. It is not that separation of private and public. It is the idea of equal respect for every faith. And I think that is really what makes it so special. That is why for the ordinary Indian, it doesn't really, I was sitting in a homeless shelter the other day, and I was talking with some people. There was a guy called Ali, and I was talking about his drinking problem. And I said, why are you okay today? So he said, Ganesh ji ka wahan pe abhi sthapna hai, isliye main nahi pee sakta. I mean, for him it was a completely natural thing to say. Yeah. But for us middle class people, it is not a natural thing to say. And so on. So I have a feeling that this business about, and that somebody like Gandhi ji was deeply Hindu. And in modern times, Prabhash Joshi, he represents to me a wonderful secular voice, because he was deeply and consciously Hindu. And he said the kinds of things like Shri Kumar. In fact, he joined Aman Biradri, the first thing. And I asked him, we all asked, why are you wanting to join Aman Biradri? And he said, I want to save Hinduism from Hindutva. And that was his statement. And I thought it was really a wonderful statement. I just wanted to say that I feel that we have to, we're so busy fighting hate with hate. We have to also have a different language of engagement. And, it's a sort of, it seems like a cliched thing to say, but that the Martin Luther King, that you can never fight darkness with darkness, only with light. So a lot of the time that that's why I try to pull back from mainstream the anti-communal work. And I'm saying that, can we have a language which is loving, respectful, but firm, and so on. But I'm part of the way there. I can do it with everybody else. But if I'm sitting with an RSS fellow, I must confess that I am not able to summon the same tolerance of their anxieties. Maybe that's something that I still need to.
We never see, in terms of public culture, any films which say actually glorify anti-Muslim or anti-Hindu feelings, or any even public Bollywood films or Tamil films or Telugu films. In none of those films do you actually see them actively taking up. However, this feeling of anti-Hinduism or anti-Muslim seems to be percolating throughout society, large parts of it, which is why you have these riots or pogroms or whatever. So I'm not too sure how much popular culture, so to speak, in terms of films or writing can actually address.
There may not be an anti-Hindu or an anti-Muslim as such a character, because finally you want to appease, you want to be politically correct, you want to ruffle least amount of feathers, you want to play safe. But if you see over the years, Muslim characters have vanished from Indian cinema. And if they are, then they are like, my name is Khan. Then it's sort of being said in a big way, and it has to be around that. It's not like a friend can just be a Muslim or somebody else is. There was earlier a good Rahim Chacha, like a good Muslim guy, but even that. So I think just slowly, subconsciously, what we think that Hindus and Indians is kind of being juxtaposed. So a lot of things that are being said about this is part of our Indian culture. In every program I go, there's a lighting of a lamp or singing of a particular kind of a stuti or whatever in the beginning, or certain examples that are given in our culture. So slowly it's almost not intentional, but it's kind of just an assumption that everything Hindu is Indian. So you don't question it, and gradually it kind of just makes you realize that we are a monolith and that is all Hindus. And therefore I find so many times people who refer to Muslims as, so you can be a Bengali Muslim. He says, no, he's not Bengali, he's a Muslim. But you're talking of a regional identity and you're talking of a religious identity, which is kind of mixed. So I think these are more dangerous because they are subtler ways of kind of making us forget that we are a multicultural society and we are not this monolith. By just constantly affirming just that, we are sort of taking it out of our memory, and a new memory probably, as you said, is being created, and that for me is a scary thing, because you don't know how to quite counter it, because someone would say, but there's nothing really anti-Muslim about it.
One of the things which I face whenever I talk to others is this whole business. You keep asking for justice, but that's standing in the way of reconciliation, that's standing in the way of development, that's standing in the way of people getting back together.
This idea of development, which Harsh mentioned, is really a drug, an epidemic idea in Gujarat. But people say, let's go on, let's forget. Development allows for erasure, lack of injustice. It's become a really powerful ideology beyond the economics of it. In fact, development has almost become a new utopian concept. Actually, we don't have languages to fight that. I mean, even within the secular language, what is an antidote to the developmentalist imagination of Gujarat? I don't know.
But on the issue of forgiveness, there's this old man called Wali Bhai in a village in Sabarkantha. He just could not bear the fact, he's completely, like Bandukwala Sahab, his own students were part of the mob who burnt his house. I mean, it is difficult for you to heal. His own, village, young people from his own village whom he'd seen grown up like his own sons came and attacked his house. He just couldn't bear the pain of it. And he sat there, actually quite, after he sent off his family to the relief colony, he kept sitting there. For days he sat outside his house. And in fact, a Patel woman actually used to bring him food in defiance of the whole village, saying he's my elder. And he used to bring, and lots of very interesting things happened. Anyway, when we started Nyayagraha, we called it Nyayagraha, like Satyagraha Satyagraha was civil disobedience against unjust laws. What we are seeing here is that the law and the constitution is just. It is the state which is disobeying that law. So we don't need a civil disobedience movement. We need a movement to demand justice, demand obedience by the state. So we called it Nyayagraha. Anyway, when we started Nyayagraha, he was one of the first, Wali Bhai was one of the first people. And there was a huge upheaval because he said, I am going to name, I had tried at that time to name these people, but the police refused to note their names. Today, we will go back, go to the court and name them with your support. So we did that. As this was happening, there was a great upheaval in the village. All the elders came saying that they came and said, please forgive these boys. They are like your own sons. They grew up before your eyes. So don't pursue this path. And Wali Bhai said that, yes, they are like my sons. I want to forgive them. Just please call a meeting of the village, let them sit down and let these boys stand up and say, we are sorry for what we did. And they said, no, we'll give you money, we will do all sorts of things, but we're not going to ask for public forgiveness. And he said, then come what may, public apology. And so he said, come what may, I'm going to pursue this to the end. And he, it was, I'd gone at one stage when even the Muslims were terrified because they said, this is now going to, so they said they'll boycott him, nobody will have anything to do with him. Hindus, Muslims, entire village had boycotted him. He had named those people, they went to jail and this man was sitting alone in his house. And he said, even if they hack me to pieces, I somehow feel restored as a human being finally today. And I think we need to understand that. I mean, I am less excited by the truth and reconciliation process. I believe that there cannot be reconciliation without justice, authentically. I think forgiveness has to follow. You see, it's not that somebody has to go to jail. You can't put a pistol to my head and say forgive. I should have the power to choose whether I want to forgive or not.